Okay, let's just dive right in. You know, some of the most powerful ideas in the world, they're not really about things. They're about how things change. I mean, think about it. The stock market, the speed of your car, understanding the rate of change is absolutely everything. But here's the tricky part. How do you capture that change in one single, precise moment?
Seriously, think about it. If you drive for an hour, yeah, you can figure out your average speed pretty easily, right? But what about the exact speed you were going the split second you looked down at your speedometer? Now that is a completely different and way more interesting question. How in the world do you measure the speed of something that's always in motion at this very instant?
So here's how we're going to break this down. First up, we're going to really get to grips with this whole problem of measuring change. Then, I'll introduce you to the perfect tool for the job. It's called the derivative. After that, we'll walk through a super simple 4-step method to actually use it. And then, and this is the important part, we'll figure out what the answers we get actually mean. And by the end, you'll see how this one idea pretty much unlocks a whole new way of looking at the world.
Okay, section 1. Measuring the speed of change. Let's get right to the heart of the problem. It's all about making this huge shift in how we think. Moving away from looking at an average change over, say, an hour, and instead zooming way in to one single instantaneous moment. So here's a perfect real-world example to chew on. Let's say a company's costs are described by this function right here. Now look, it's one thing to know the total cost of making, say, 10 items. That's useful, sure. But the really valuable question, the one that can make or break a decision, is this. At the exact moment we decide to produce that 10th item, how fast are our costs going up? That is the crucial insight we're after.
And to answer a question like that, you can't just use regular old math. You need a specific tool. And that tool, my friends, is called the derivative. It's basically designed for one thing: unlocking the secrets of change.
And I love this beautifully simple definition from educator Shuriye Omar. The derivative it describes how quickly something changes. That's it. The key thing to get here is that we're shifting our entire focus. We're not looking at static values anymore. We're looking at the dynamic process of change itself.
This slide just nails the difference, doesn't it? The original function, that's your what question. What is the cost right now? But the derivative, that's the how fast question. At this very moment, how fast is that cost changing? It's literally the difference between a still photograph and a video, or the difference between knowing where you are and knowing how fast you're going.
Okay, so we have this amazing tool. How do we actually use it? Well, luckily for us, there's a wonderfully clear, structured model that's going to guide us every step of the way. Let's walk through it.
All right, this 4-step model is our roadmap. It's super straightforward. Step 1, just read the task. Step 2, figure out what's actually changing. Step 3, this is where we do the math, we derive the function. But Step 4 is where the magic really happens. We interpret the answer. We have to translate that number back into a real-world story. Because honestly, without that, it's just a bunch of numbers on a page, right?
And that brings us perfectly into section 4, to see and interpret, because that final step, the interpretation part, that's where everything clicks. The number you get from a derivative, it's not just a number, it's telling you a story about what is happening at that one single point in time.
So if your derivative turns out to be a positive number, what does that mean? Simple. It means the graph is rising. It's heading uphill. In our business example, a positive derivative means costs are actively going up at that very moment.
And you guessed it, if the derivative is negative, the exact opposite is true. The graph is sinking, it's going downhill. For our company, this would be fantastic news, right? It would mean our costs are actually decreasing at that point.
But what happens when the derivative is exactly 0? Now this is the crucial moment. This is the big one. It means that for a split second, the change has completely stopped. The graph is flat. This signals what we call a stationary point. It could be the very peak of a mountain, the bottom of a valley, or maybe just a temporary flat spot. And finding these points, well, that's often the whole goal.
Which brings us to the real power of all this. Finding those peaks and valleys, those moments where change hits 0, that is not just a math exercise. It is the absolute key to making some incredibly important decisions.
I mean, think about it. By finding where that rate of change is 0, you can find the exact point of maximum profit for your company. You can pinpoint your absolute minimum cost. You can analyze a rocket's speed just from its position function. You could even figure out the perfect dimensions to build a box that holds the most stuff possible. It's one single tool with just a ton of applications.
And this quote right here, it just gets to the very heart of everything we've been talking about.
The point isn't just the calculation. The goal is to use this amazing tool for analysis, to get a deeper understanding, and to actually interpret what the world is telling you through the language of math.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. Just think about your own world for a second, your job, your hobbies, anything. What's something in your life that's constantly changing? Because now that you have this new way of thinking, this new tool for measuring change at an exact moment, what could you understand about it in a completely new and maybe much more powerful way?